views, opinions, and content of the show are those of the host, guests, and callers. They do not necessarily reflect those of Local Matters Broadcasting LLC, its owners, partners, affiliates, assigns, or heirs. Having said that, it's now time to say good morning, St. Johns County. Welcome to the weekly radio show of the St. Johns County Council on Aging, better known in our community as the COA. We are your local nonprofit agency who for the past 51 years has been leading and advocating for the dignity and independence of seniors and responding to their changing needs. I'm Brian Robinson, Program Director for COA, broadcasting to you live from the studio of WFOY 102.1 FM, your local radio station for news, sports, and talk. Before we get into our show, let me remind everyone, if you have a question, comment, or a suggestion for a radio show topic, or if you have a question for my guest today, while we're on the air, you can send that to radio@coasjc.org. Again, that's radio@coasjc.org. I do have my email up in front of me, and I'll be monitoring that, and we'll try to work your question into the show if we have time. So joining me this morning is Mayor of the City of St. Augustine, Nancy Sikes Kline. Mayor Sikes Kline has served on the City Commission since 2008. Twice she has been selected by her peers to serve as Vice Mayor, and twice she has been elected to serve as Mayor of the City of St. Augustine, first in 2022 and again in 2024. Mayor Sikes Kline, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here, Brian.
Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule, as I'm sure you have like back-to-back things going on every day as the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
But if you would, in the event somebody is listening this morning who maybe they know absolutely nothing about you, maybe they just moved to the area and they're new and don't know anything about you, would you just tell our listeners about yourself?
Well, I'm a mom, and I'm a homeowner in Davis Shores. I love Davis Shores. I've lived there. My husband and I have lived there since 1995. So we've been through a lot over there with the hurricanes and such. Raised our kids there. We got married in our home.
Oh, wow.
There in Davis Shores, and I love it. I came here after college. I went to UF. I was a geography major, and I went into planning, urban planning, and I worked as a consultant, independent consultant for quite a long time. I'm retired from that now, but I do mayorship full time. Mm-hmm. I've made it a full-time job, but honestly, Brian, this community is so busy. If I said yes to every single thing, I would be working around the clock.
Absolutely.
It's just, we have so much, we're so activated and so invigorated by our different causes and our different needs in the community, and I get invited to so many things to represent the city. So a lot of things. One thing that's interesting is a lot of people think that they live in the city of St. Augustine because I have a St. Augustine address, so I get invited to do a lot of things that are not like literally in the city limits, but in the area. We have about 17,000 people in the city. And we have 107,000 people living in the urban area, the St. Augustine urban area, which is the largest urban area outside of Jacksonville. So we have a lot of people. We really don't realize it, but of course, the city of St. Augustine is right in the heart of that. But there's just been so much growth around the city. And of course, everybody thinks that they live in the city, but they live here. It's a point of pride for them. So I get invited, circling back to your question, I get invited to do ribbon cuttings and all kinds of things, events, and in the county outside of the city as well. But so if I did all that, I would definitely be 24/7.
Absolutely. And you mentioned 1995, and you said you've been in your home since 1995 in Davis Shores. And so that brought back to my memory is I went to Trinity Baptist College, now Trinity College of Jacksonville, and in the mid-1990s. And and my wife and I would come down to St. Augustine for our date nights. And so that's when I first became familiar with it. And then I graduated in 98 and moved back to West Virginia and was in ministry for a number of years before moving back in 2018. So just in that time frame, wow, what a lot of growth has happened. And so you've been an eyewitness to all that growth over the past 30 years.
Yes, it's funny because I feel like where I live in Davis Shores, I'm sort of tucked in this little cocoon that's near downtown. We're walkable to downtown. We chose our neighborhood so that we could walk over the bridge and do all the city things downtown and watch the fireworks on 4th of July without leaving our house and things like that. We have watched it grow, and I didn't realize until Hurricane Matthew and we were completely flooded. Our home we lost everything, and our home was completely flooded, 3.5 feet of water and that sort of thing. And we were displaced. And so we had to find a place to live. We actually had almost 2 years that we lived out in the county. So we moved out of the city because there wasn't anywhere for us, and we were trying to, struggling to find a place. Everybody was struggling to find a place to live at that time, and we're moving around and so forth and so on. To make a long story short, we rebuilt our house at a higher level. We don't live in the original house. That was torn down, and we built a new house up at about 10.5 feet. But we got an experience of living in the county. So I do have that unique perspective of what it's like to live outside of the city limits for a period of time and go through that traffic in the morning and trying to get to work and into the city or go where I need to go. I have that unique perspective because in the city, like I said, we're sort of like cocooned.
Sure.
Everything is pretty close. You can pretty much ride a bike anywhere. From anywhere in the city to downtown and home. We try to make that possible for people, that they can walk and they can bicycle anywhere in the city. I'm not saying it's perfect, but we've had that on our minds and our hearts for people to be able to do. So, yeah, it's an interesting experience. But I appreciate something that you said, which is on date night you would come down to St. Augustine. And I think that's really common. I think our biggest clientele are kind of our next door neighbors in Duval County in Jacksonville, because Jacksonville doesn't have a wonderful downtown like we do, unfortunately. So I think we're sort of like their living room.
Sure.
They come down like the community living room. They bring their families to show off St. Augustine, and because they can go to the garage very conveniently, park, get out of the car, go walk, get an ice cream, go visit the Castillo if they're here during the day. Just walk around and shop or eat fabulous food. We have some incredible
lots of amazing restaurants
with
for
the
sure.
Amazing views, of all those restaurants down on the bayfront with amazing views. So and then the beach. And then, we have Anastasia State Park. Many people don't realize Anastasia State Park, which is, I believe, the second most visited state park in the whole state of Florida, is located in the city limits of St. Augustine. The amphitheater is located within the city limits of St. Augustine. We have amazing resources. We punch well above our weight when it comes to being able to being hospitable and giving a variety of things for people to do. So don't get me started.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead. We're going to take our first break. I got a lot more questions for you as we continue our conversation. You're listening to the weekly radio show, the St. Johns County Council on Aging. We'll be right back after these messages. And welcome back to the weekly radio show, the St. Johns County Council on Aging, here on WFOY 102.1 FM, your local radio station for news, sports, and talk. I'm Brian Robinson, Program Director for COA. And I am joined this morning by Mayor Nancy Sikes Kline. And so in the first segment, the mayor was telling us a little bit about herself and everything that she loves about serving the people of St. Augustine. And so I do want to jump into some questions. You did mention that, the city of St. Augustine is more than just the downtown area. I mean, if you look at a map of what you're responsible for, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it basically starts just below the St. Augustine Airport, goes down to State Route 312, and then from the ocean, Anastasia State Park does not include Volano Beach, and then comes over to some areas just west of US 1. Does that sound about right?
That's about right. Yes, it's not a smooth border.
It is not. No,
it's very quirky, and that's just due to annexations over periods of time that kind of along our edges.
Yeah.
So people have come in and said, "I want to annex. I want to annex."
Okay.
And little pieces here and there, little chunks come in, and I think some of it is due to, like, for example, Madeira, north, south of the airport, in that area, north of town along US 1. That's a large residential subdivision. We don't usually see that in the city. We don't have large residential subdivisions. That's more of a county feature. But it was a developer, it was where the golf course was, a historic golf course, and they wanted to annex in because the city of St. Augustine doesn't have the impact fees. We have other fees. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
it's not a freebie to go into the city because we have different rules than the county does. But anyway, that I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And so, I just mentioned that because I think it's important for folks to know that it's not just the downtown area, but also if you have St. Augustine in your address, that doesn't necessarily mean it's over your jurisdiction.
That's correct.
Because I think of myself, I live off of just down the road off of Old Moultrie, and my address is St. Augustine, but that would not fall under your jurisdiction. That would be a county jurisdiction, and so it is the boundary lines are like you said, very quirky. But I do want to focus just if you don't mind on the downtown area, and just kind of some of the things that are going on down there. So first, the King Street Water Main Improvement Project. I drive by that way every day on my way to work. And I noticed that it has been completed. If you wanted to go ahead and give a little update on that.
Yes. Well, so the first phase was the city's responsibility, and it went a little bit longer. Just about everything goes a little bit longer these days since COVID. And it was a little bit longer, but that water main project was completed. And the next phase of that will be come along after that will be the rebuild of the San Sebastian Bridge, that little short bridge there on King Street, kind of next to Foxtail and the new hotel there, and Flagler College and the winery, that vicinity. So the DOT will be moving into that. They have agreed to not start that project until after Nights of Lights.
That's great.
Next year, which we're all kind of thrilled about. But it probably will take up to 2 years once they begin. And there will be what's called a maintenance of traffic plan. And that will be something where they'll reroute us down Malaga. They'll be putting a traffic light in at Malaga and US 1.
Okay.
So that will help with the traffic flow. But people will have to find a way around to get into King Street. It will be very, very inconvenient. And we will go through one period of Nights of Lights with that change. It's going to be a difficult challenge for us. But people, I think by that time, will have had the summer to get through it with the traffic adjustments and the rerouting of traffic, and people will have found their new ways to move around. But yes, that project it's majorly for us because it will help with the drainage. It's increased that drainage pipe underneath the road that goes all the way down to the bayfront, and it was terribly undersized. So now it will be much greater capacity for water movement. So that will be really good, efficient for us. And that, combined with our Maria Sanchez Lake project, which is underway now, not under construction, but the project itself is underway. We're in the acquisition phase, the land acquisition phase. That's taking a lot longer than we thought. But that will also help with drainage downtown.
And also the flooding, then, I assume.
The
correct?
flooding and yes, it's the Maria Sanchez Lake is really key to draining downtown. A lot of people don't know that it was actually there was a creek running through downtown that drained probably, I think it's 100 or 200 acres, a very large area. And Henry Flagler, when he built Flagler College Hotel, he built the hotel. It was a tourist hotel. We've always been a tourist city, I think. He filled that lake, that creek in. And so the Maria Sanchez Lake is that feature that's left that drains, that sort of substitutes for that creek, and it drains downtown. And our project is to increase capacity there for the drainage, which means, we'll get help with that flooding downtown. It doesn't mean that it's going to be perfect. We don't want to create unrealistic expectations. People have to understand we are a coastal city.
Right.
It's a very low-lying area. It is Florida. Florida is an old sandbar. We're not, we've got that one ridge that runs up and down the state, that kind of in the middle of the state, that's higher than the rest of the state. But along the coastline, it's flat and it's low.
Right.
So we'll always be battling this issue, whether you agree with sea level rise or not. I frankly do, but agree that is happening in front of our eyes. But I do think that we will always have this challenge. So, circling back to what's happening with the San Sebastian Bridge And the drainage project there, yes, it's all related. We're all, the DOT is assisting us in trying to adapt so that we can get through, what comes ahead in the future in the way of hurricanes, flooding, and
and every once in a while that area by the bridge does flood.
Oh yes,
especially on like king tide, if we've had a lot of rain and so forth, and of course if a hurricane comes through naturally. But so the new bridge, I'm sure, takes that into consideration and will probably be designed a little bit differently to hopefully avoid some of that flooding that we currently get.
Yes, and that's what the drainage is for, the project underneath, the part that you didn't see that we just finished, will help with that too. So hopefully it's not going to be perfect because, the water will always win.
Right.
And it always wants to go where it used to go. No matter what man does to come in and push it around, it will always do what it wants to do.
Yeah.
So it'll continue to be a challenge. I don't want to, like I said, I don't like to create unrealistic expectations, but it's Florida. I always say, we're always under construction. Our roads are always
that is very true.
It's never not under construction.
Yes.
We're just growing and growing and growing, and everybody wants to be here. They all want to be in the same place at the same time. So we're always dealing with that, hence downtown.
Absolutely.
Hence downtown and all the challenges that we have there. So
well, and I realize that is can be a headache, right? Constantly under construction and so forth. However, I do want to say this though, and though it can be a headache and challenging, it's a good thing. Right, because it means we're moving forward. I'm originally from the northern part of West Virginia, and it was a steel mill town that I grew up in, which of course we know the steel mills are just about pretty much gone, right?
Yep.
And so when I go back home, there's nothing going on, right? I mean, my most recent visit, the biggest news was they installed a traffic light at one intersection that used to be a stop sign, right? So there's not a lot going on. However, there's a new company that has come in. They bought up some of the area where the steel mill is. They put in a new company that manufactures the batteries that go into the giant windmills.
Wow!
And so that's been fun to see that starting to revive, right? And so, but it's so great to live in an area where we live because we're constantly moving forward and we're constantly trying to make it better than what it was, and of course adapt to the influx of more people coming here.
Well, it's constantly, and it's like you said, it's these challenges that we see of growth create opportunity, and I think that's what people want. They want opportunities for experiences. They want opportunities for better places to live and better places to work and to prosper and have peace and enjoy the environment. They want opportunities. They want choices. That's what your hometown is seeing a little bit of now. But yes, I've never grown up. I mean, I grew up in Florida. I was born and raised here. I'm a native. My family goes back in St. Johns County before the Civil War, so I'm always used to the growth. I always say to people that Florida has 3 industries. It has agriculture, it has tourism, and it has growth. And I think growth is actually our number one industry, so we have to be cognizant of that.
All right, that music means we've got to take our next break. We'll be right back with more questions for the mayor after these messages. And welcome back to the weekly radio show, the St. Johns County Council on Aging, here on WFOY 102.1 FM, your local radio station for news, sports, and talk. I'm Brian Robinson, Program Director for COA. And let me let you know that next week we will have in the studio COA's Independent Living Services Manager, Gene Roth, will be in the studio with me to talk about everything that we do through our Independent Living Services Department. So tune in next week, same place, same time, right here on WFOY 102.1 FM. But my guest this morning is Mayor Nancy Sikes Kline, the mayor of the city of St. Augustine. And we were, in our last segment, we were talking about all the different things going on as far as construction goes on the King Street Bridge. You talked some about the seawall. I wanted to kind of shift to something else that recently took place and that I think is good for folks to know in case they don't, and that is the increase in the fee for illegal parking. That went from $35 to $100 effective October 1st. So I was wondering if you would just kind of let our listeners know about that and why you had to increase that.
Yes, and the key word here is illegal. So how do we define illegal? Let's define what it isn't. What it isn't is meters. Mm-hmm. If you go over your time on the meter, that is not what increased. That's not considered illegal parking. That is just overstaying, your time. Mm-hmm. So your fine will stay the same for that. But this is for the illegal, which is blocking hydrants, blocking driveways, parking on yellow curbs, parking your car on the Fort Greene, which we saw last Nights of Lights. So this is really, this increase in parking is in response to feedback that we had from residents during Nights of Lights last year. We found that people were willing to pay the $35 so that they could park their car, and so they made parking. They created parking where parking was not allowed. So, unfortunately, the residents really took it hard. Sure. Blocking your driveway, that could be life changing.
Sure, absolutely.
Sort of thing, and parking on yellow curbs. Of course, that's interferes with safety concerns, because the reason we do the yellow curbs largely is to create safety lines of sight. Create lines of sight at intersections and things like that. So blocking a fire hydrant, same thing, could change somebody's life, could hurt some, really, you could have a loss of life. So it's important. But so basically, it's only going to, what we have to understand is that it's also only applies to really the downtown core area. So just those neighborhoods around the downtown core is where the illegal parking fee went up to $100. So it's really just to attack bad behavior downtown.
And I would assume that you find that happening more so like Nights of Lights, or when you have other big events that are going on in the city.
Yes, when we're most compressed on our parking, we're always compressed for our parking. Always, no matter what. But it gets really critical around these big events when we have them. So, what are the kinds of things that we do to offset that? We require people, that are doing these large events, these groups that come in and do large events on Francis Field, they are required to run shuttles. Yes, it is an increasing cost to those events, but it's really where we're going as a city in the future, is to tell people, don't drive through downtown. Like for Nights of Lights, we're telling people, this is not a drive-through experience. It's not going to happen. You're not going to load the kids and the dog up in the car and the grandparents and drive through downtown and look at the pretty lights. It won't happen anymore. We've got to get people into those shuttles and realize that that's going to be a different experience for you. So, and we're moving to that way in all directions as much as we can. So, like this year's Nights of Lights, we're going to increase the park and ride system. So we'll be doing it on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays this year, not just Saturdays. So we're working very hard. It is expensive. People need to understand that. Yes, and the tourist development tax is helping us pay for that for the first time. They're really, not the first time, but they're helping us expand the shuttle service for the first time. So, but we are, we are a wonderful destination for people. They want to come downtown. And like I said earlier, we all want to be in the same place at the same time. And it just creates a lot of, interesting dynamics that are constantly changing and constantly a big, big challenge for a little city like us.
Well, and it is, lots of people travel in for this.
They really do.
I had a childhood friend of mine. She was living over in the Bradenton area, and her family drove up, and that's a good 4-hour trip to come up and see the Nights of Lights. But they had seen it advertised clear over there, so it the word is out, and people know about it, and it seems to continue to grow and grow. I know my family and I, we tried to go down last year, and we could not find a parking spot.
Right.
And, so we just kind of gave up.
Yeah.
And I've seen it many, many times. We've walked through many times. So it's not like we missed out on not seeing it.
Right.
But, we were just wanting to go down for an evening and walk around, and we couldn't find a spot.
Yeah, this last year was a tough year for us. It was a really tough year. This is a 33-year event. We've been managing it a long time. We never saw anything like what we saw last year. And what had happened was I'm on the TDC, which is the bed tax. We spend the bed tax, which is collected on rooms. So it's an added tax. Everybody knows what a bed tax is now. I think whenever we travel, we always pay for bed tax. But the numbers were off a little bit last year. As far as what I mean is visitation was a little bit lower, and the TDC said, well, let's spend some more money advertising Nights of Lights. Maybe that'll pick up the gap. So they spent a ton more money advertising to the drive market, what we call the drive market, which is the people like your friends who are in the vicinity and they're close enough to drive in. So everybody came and they brought their cars. So it's something I don't know if that's going to be repeated this year or not. I haven't heard anybody appeal after what happened yesterday. I mean, last year it just was just too much for us to handle in our little tiny town. We were not prepared for what happened, and it definitely picked up the gap, but then more so. The big question is how are we going to do, not dwelling on the past, or just the only reason that we look at the past is so that we can maybe learn from our mistakes. So we can, moving forward, we're looking at all the things that we can do better in case we do have the same kind of thing happen this year with Nights of Lights. And we're preparing as if it is going to happen that way this year, that we're going to have the folks driving in from all around the state and even as far as southern Georgia and Miami. But we're going to do some things differently. We're going to increase our public bathrooms. We'll have more portalets downtown. I already mentioned we're going to increase the shuttle service, so the park and ride, and then you can come into town and walk around. 1 minute.
And that music means
to be continued.
Yeah, hold that thought. We're going to come back after these messages. And welcome back to the final segment of the weekly radio show of the St. Johns County Council on Aging here on WFOI 102.1 FM, your local radio station for news, sports, and talk. I'm Brian Robinson, Program Director for COA, joined in the studio this morning by Mayor Nancy Sikes Kline. And before we went to commercial, Mayor, you were telling us about some of the things that you have ready to go for the upcoming Nights of Lights.
Yes, and I mentioned the increase in public portalets, as well as the increased park and ride shuttle service, so that it's going to be Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays this year, not just Saturdays. We're going to have increased public safety assistance, which is more officers, more traffic control, and pedestrian management. We had a lot of pedestrians in the road, and that jammed up traffic unduly. We'll have some measures put into place for the neighborhoods to protect the neighborhoods from people cut through traffic and parking in the neighborhoods around, like Model Land Tract and Uptown and those areas. And we'll also have, you'll see more barricades downtown to control the pedestrians' crossings through the road. And we're working with the business community to create workforce parking designated areas. We're going to take some areas and we're going to make it available so that the employees aren't taking up all the spaces for our guests. So we're trying to get a little more organized. We're taking this opportunity, like I said earlier, sometimes these big growth spurts give us opportunities to manage things a little bit better. So we're going to be doing that. So we want everybody to come and have a really good experience. Of course, we want the businesses to do well. We want the residents to be able to, it's, 59 days in a row. I mean, that can be a lot on you.
Absolutely.
If you live downtown, it's we're trying to be fair to them and preserve their quality of life. So, but also, something we haven't talked a lot about is our visitor experience. And we want that visitor experience not to be in a car. We want it to be them on foot in downtown, living, breathing, seeing, experiencing the bayfront and the downtown. So that's, we're really hoping that all of these things, it's kind of a trial run for us, but we're prepared for what we saw last year. We're not sure that'll happen, but if it does, we'll be ready.
Fantastic. Sounds like some great plans. All right, I'd like to shift focus to now. In July of this year, the city celebrated the 25th anniversary of the establishment of the City of St. Augustine Community Redevelopment Agency, better known as CRA. So I was wanting to take some time, educate our listeners a little bit about that designation, and then I think you have a celebration coming up as well.
Yes. It's perfect timing that you asked this question, because tonight, believe it or not, we're having a party on top of the parking garage. Yes, you heard that correctly. There is going to be a party for the community that is free for everyone to attend on top of the parking garage deck downtown.
Well, that sounds fun. I didn't even know that you could get up to there.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure the logistics of it. I don't have that in front of me, but I will say that we are celebrating those 25 years of having our CRAs on top of the garage, and it's going to be, I'll give you more details about that. Let's see, there's going to be a band, Palmetto Pickers, with spin to win prize wheel, a photo booth bus, free pizza, educational activities, and the Old Beach Bike Riders Association is going to have a bike valet service. So ride your bike down, you can leave your bike with them, they'll go park it, and you can pick it up when you leave. So ride your bike. Okay. Because I think parking rates are still in place. Mm-hmm. So there's $3 for St. Johns County residents if you park your car in the garage, and $5 for non-residents after 5 o'clock. So this is tonight at 5 o'clock. So what are we celebrating? We're celebrating 25 years of our CRA. We have CRA as a community redevelopment area, which was established on our downtown 25 years ago, a downtown area. It's what paid for the parking garage to get constructed. Okay. So it also has helped us create a more walkable downtown with some of the improvements so that people can walk and bike, and other things like trying to manage automobiles downtown. So there's that money was it's like a special kind of taxing district. It's not a new tax. It's just basically they're taking the taxes that are already collected and putting them into a pot to redevelop an area, to create an redevelopment. It's a bit unusual to see something like that for parking development, but it's a state. It fit all the laws and met all the requirements. So the second one that we did was in Lincolnville. And we've seen what's happened in Lincolnville. We think that the redevelopment area down there has been amazing. And it's well underway in Lincolnville. The next one we just established last year was the West City CRA. And that one is our brand new one. And we're really excited about the redevelopment of West Augustine. It's a 6-point action plan, and it's focused on community stabilization. We'll do just like we did down in Lincolnville. We'll have a Fix It Up program, which is designed to help people age in place in their homes. If they're elderly and have needs that they've had to put off because they can't afford it, we have this program that comes in, and it's called the Fix It Up program. We work with a local nonprofit to go in and actually do the work, and it helps, put a roof on or help them with upgrading their bathroom or their kitchen or those sorts of things. And they can apply for that, just like we did this in Lincolnville, and we've done umpteen houses down there and helped umpteen elderly stay in their home and age in place. We're going to do it over in West Augustine too, so we're really excited about that. It's very, very needed in West
very
City.
Much so. And as you know, that's our mission at COA.
That is your mission.
To help our seniors stay in their home as long as possible.
That's correct.
They spent their career paying on that mortgage to own that home. They've raised their families there. They have all those memories. There's just no place like home. And so that's our goal at COA, is to try to help people stay in their home as long as possible. But we can only do so much. So it's great to hear of programs like that are being offered.
Yeah. The positive effect of being able to stay in your home with the area that you're familiar with and adapt that home to you as you age, the ability to adapt and get assistance to adapt that home to you as you age, and keep you from getting isolated in a place that you're unfamiliar with. That I think that's one of the biggest things is for elderly is the isolation factor.
It absolutely is.
To be able to stay in your home where your church and where you shop every day, and the doctors that you go to, and your friends and your neighbors. They're just, I really learned a lot about that during our flooding experience in Davis Shores, how important our neighbors are.
Mm-hmm.
We are still to this day very, very closely knit little neighborhood. Even just a half of a block of our neighbors are. You really learn to value when you really need other people, when you really can't do things for yourself. It's so important.
Mm-hmm.
So the work that the Council on Aging does is really amazing, and I can't say enough. My husband sits on the board of directors, and I get to hear him and talk about the things. We've always supported Council on Aging. It's just so important. And as I age myself, and as I've cared for my aging family, my parents are all gone now. Yeah. I was blessed with 2 step parents as well as my own parents. But they're all gone now, and had the honor to help care for them in their age. And as they aged, and as they I say walk them home. I got to walk them home, hold their hands and walk them home. Mm-hmm. It's so important. And when you see that happen to somebody, you appreciate that it's going to happen to you. Mm-hmm. So it motivates you to want to help.
Yeah. Well, that music means it's time for our show to be over. Mayor, thank you so much for being here. Great to have you.
We wonder what a wonderful thing. Hello, St. Augustine. Goodbye, St. Augustine. I love you.
All right. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you next week.